How to Take Smart Notes, a 2017 book written by Sunte Ahrens, is a book about taking or writing down smart notes. This is going to be a book summary, and so I'll just go through the different parts of the book. Writing is used to organize thoughts and to help memorize things. Writing is so important, it's surprising that we don't have guidance on this everyday task. The organization of open writing is the theme to this book. Writing isn't the end product of learning, it is the process of learning. The product of writing is often a product that doesn't turn up for a long time. This can make it hard to know if you are doing it well while the process is underway. We need something to act as a compass as we complete the writing itself. Writing doesn't start with a blank page, it starts with the notes that we have gathered either in actual written form or in other forms, such as the experiences we have accumulated over time. The key to producing good writing is in the preparation and the writing before the writing of the final product. It is not so much as to who you are, but in how you work with certain systems that will produce a sound final result. Chapter 1. Everything you need to know. The note-taking workflow is covered in this book. The note-taking structures should allow a freedom of expression that allows the author to move from one idea to another. You should be able to build a structure that is easy to follow and easy to write. This is because each concept will build upon the next intuitively. Having a writing structure to work within is different from working according to an inflexible plan. We need a structure that can be flexible as new challenges approach. Writing about a concept can be daunting because we feel we haven't taken in all the information needed to make a meaningful comment. Even then, once we have a great deal of information, it can be hard to know where to start and to organize the thoughts. If we are weak learners, then it is easy to feel as if we have enough information because we would just regurgitate what is given to us, but we would lack insight. A strong student, on the other hand, constantly finds challenges that sometimes supersede their abilities. They embrace and follow these lateral lines of thinking. Chapter 1.1. Start making your system immediately by taking notes. Complexity of your system can sometimes clash against usability and usefulness, so it is key to try and keep it simple where you can. Start now. You will inevitably change the way you curate your notes, but that is fine. There is no need to go back and change what you have done. Just work forward. Try to base your system off of proven systems, like the slip box method given in this book. You must also change your habits. If you don't use your system, then no matter what system you have set up, it will not work. Make it simple and repeatable. You'll remove the bottlenecks later. Take David Allen's Getting Things Done as an example. The process of writing is non-linear, which makes it not a good comparison with the getting things done paradigm. However, what we can compare is that getting things done and writing are both holistic endeavors that consider a lot of different types of inputs to process into an output or several outputs. We need to make sure the processes that we use are well tied together in a functioning system. This is where the slip box method comes in. Chapter 1.2. Nicholas Luhmann developed a note-taking and curating system that enabled him to be prolific in his academic writing career. It allowed him to connect many ideas and be able to write on concepts that could easily fully flesh out an article. He always seemed to have enough things to write about. Not only this, but he didn't have much assistance in his writing apart from spell checking. Luhmann's system allowed him the freedom to work on things as he was ready for them and also write with ease. His system gave him flexibility. It gave him the ability to work without resistance. His system allowed him to externalize the thought process rather than having to hold everything in his head at once. The concept of the slip box is not just the physical box, but also how it is worked with. Chapter 1.3. The slip box that Luhmann used was actually two, one for metadata and one of the content. For the metadata, he would write down the information about the literature, like context and publisher. For the second, he would summarize his thoughts onto one piece of paper. He would write these notes with care, using full sentences and references to other notes. He would not copy and paste information. His notes were also not organized by topic. He would label them with a number, and if he developed the note further, he would add a slash followed by other numbers or letters. He would sometimes stash notes behind other notes and would make links from one note to another. He would also have an index of his filing system. All of this can be accomplished with a computer system, something that automatically makes the numbers and can connect the ideas for us. Chapter 2. The overall steps in the task of creating an end-written product can be broken down into simple steps. Assemble the notes, bring them into order, turn the notes into a draft, review the draft. So the hardest part may be to write the actual notes. However, if we use note-taking as part of the writing process and ingrain them into a simple habit, then the writing of the end product becomes streamlined. This is why it is important to take notes. We actively think about what we are writing about, put it into our own words, and then use those words when we need to write a paper. The process of writing is simply 5 processes in one: thinking, reading, learning, understanding, generating ideas. And we use writing to enhance these processes. Chapter 2.1. Writing a paper step by step. Step 1. Make fleeting notes. Put them into some kind of inbox for processing later. These can be actually written, or they could be an audio recording. 2. Make literature notes. Using your own words, what is the content of what you have read? Also collect the metadata. 3. Make permanent notes. Now go to the above 2 and write about how those ideas are connected. What questions arise from these thoughts? Think deeply about what you have collected and write about it. 3. Make permanent notes. Now go to the above 2 and write about how those ideas are connected. What questions arise from these thoughts? Think deeply about what you have collected and write about it. You can then discard your fleeting notes, as they have now been captured by the permanent note. File the permanent note behind another related one. Add links to related notes, and make a link to your index so you can find the note later on. 4. Develop the topics from the bottom up. Investigate what is missing. Follow the path that produces the most insight. There is no need to brainstorm for a topic, and there is no need to cling to an idea. Go with the one that has the most momentum. 5. Soon enough you'll have developed something with enough information to write about a topic. This product will be based on what you have rather than on something you don't have. Collect and arrange your notes into an order that would make a good essay. Then you have the task of connecting the smaller ideas into a rough draft. 6. When making the rough draft, don't copy and paste. Rewrite the ideas so they flow well. This will also allow you the time to chew through the ideas and see if there are some holes that you need to work on. 7. Edit and proofread the draft. These steps will be happening all the time. You'll end up producing something while also working on something else. In the end, you'll be iterating through them, and the system will build upon itself like a snowball rolling down a hill. This allows you to focus on one thing at a time while feeling comfortable that you have captured everything. Chapter 3. Everything you need to have. Keep it simple, and the main thing is being able to think rather than spending time trying to get the system to work. 3.1. 4 tools are needed. something to write with and something to write on, a reference management system, a slip box, and an editor. Use things that don't cost money when possible. 1. The capture system should be paper or a notebook and a pen, something to temporarily capture information to be processed later. 2. Referencing can be done with Zotero or something else that makes it easy to get references. 3. The slip box. You need something that can tag as well as link. Zettelkasten is recommended, however you can use programs that are free as well, like Obsidian. 4. A word processor that can easily put in the references used. Chapter 4. A few things to keep in mind. There are 2 aspects: the tools that you'll use and how you use the tools. Chapter 5. Writing is the only thing that matters. Writing is a demonstration of understanding. Often writing assignments are hyper-focused, which doesn't represent what independent research is like. Studying is a practice of gaining insight, which is a good representation of research. In the process of writing, we are forced to make explicit what is implicit. This makes the thinking more coherent and enables us to be persuasive, at least to ourselves at first. Learning courses are often the opposite. You are taken down a line of thinking, and it is not productive to think laterally, as it is a distraction from the end goal. A quote by Svante Arens: "If writing is the medium of research, and studying nothing else than research, then there is no reason not to work as if nothing else counts than writing." Writing is the output, so your inputs are the content you receive in its different forms. Focusing on writing will also help you discern what is important input. It will also make you focus on your writing style and end up making you more convincing in your discussion of ideas. Chapter 6. It is sometimes supposed that a system has to be complex in order to produce grand results. This is not correct. Sometimes simple ideas also appear to make things complicated, but the process surrounding the simplicity isn't tuned to the central idea. When making your Zettelkastens, the question you are asking should not be, under which topic do I store this note? Rather, it should be, in which context will I want to stumble upon it again? It is important to distinguish between the 3 different types of notes: fleeting, permanent, and project notes. This allows a critical mass to be created and thus a product to form. The more notes you collect should make your system more beneficial, otherwise you have a poor system. Process your fleeting notes within a couple of days and discard them if they are processed or useless. Allow your permanent notes to gather and build over time. Some things may never be used, others may be the spark to a completely new line of reasoning. Chapter 7. Nobody ever starts from scratch. Most writing guides encourage a linear work process, which isn't how inspired writing actually works. They are geared towards completing writing assignments. Inspired writing often comes from following lines of thinking that causes more questions and other tangents. This means we can write with ease because the direction we feel we must write is not tied down to a pre-planned theme. When you look into your slip box, you will eventually see themes arise from the items that you have already written about. Once it has reached critical mass, then you just need to arrange the ideas into a cohesive work without starting from scratch. Writing from a brainstorm is not productive because you are trying to recall things that you only vaguely remember, and you're making a decision on the theme of writing before even writing. Open writing does the opposite because it allows you to think in tangents while also solidifying what you have before you and what is easiest to recall. Chapter 8. Open writing allows you to enjoy the process, which will quickly turn into a habit because of the joy you associate with it. Rather than having to rely on a reward at the end of a struggle to get a positive boost, the process itself is the positive boost. This is why there is a common saying in workout circles: the best workout routine is the one you stick to. The idea of constant and immediate feedback is tied into this workflow. You want to take positive and negative feedback as you progress into your open writing journey. This feedback will propel you into better processes and better writing. Holding a growth mindset, one that enjoys getting better rather than focusing on the results only, is a key driver. Open writing allows for smaller mistakes to happen, and smaller mistakes are easier to correct. This is opposed to large writing assignments that require a big time investment from you, with little feedback during the process. The assignment takes a couple of weeks to mark from the assessor, and then the feedback comes to you, but you have forgotten about what the process was that got you to that product. Not only that, but you've started another writing assignment by that time, and it could feel daunting. The slip box is not a random box of notes. They are interlinked in various ways. As the box grows, there are more ideas, so there are more ways things can interlink. The effect is exponential. Chapter 9, 9.2. Multitasking makes us poorer task performers. It feels as if we are being more productive. However, the truth is the opposite. Multitasking is not actually about having several things in focus at once. It is shifting from one thing to another in rapid succession. This experience makes it feel like you are expending energy and are thus productive, but the feeling betrays the reality of what is happening. 9.3. The writing process contains many different types of sub-processes that require different focus of mind. When you are writing, remove the inner editor until it is time for the editing process. The ability to keep to a particular process, focus on that task only, then change when needed, is a skill we need to develop in order to become strong writers. 9.4. Experts often rely on their intuition when making decisions and analyzing. This intuition is based on a wide base of experiences and knowledge they have integrated into their mental structures. This can only come through exposure to their practice. The slip box method is a method which exposes you to the compartmentalized tasks which you can practice in turn. This will eventually train you to think intuitively in each compartment. The experience will come. 9.5. An advantage to the slip box and getting things done is that you can give your brain closure over a task. For example, you write something down so that you can move on to another task. The system also makes task switching easy because you can come back to a note and remember what it is about. This also means we give our subconscious time to process something while focusing on another task or sleeping off the day's activities. We process the thoughts consciously as much as we can into notes and then leave them for a time. Chapter 9.6. By making each sub-process for writing a smaller task, it is easier to make decisions under each of the tasks. When you are writing the notes, then you are focused on the process of summarizing, and you only have to worry about that. You don't need to make any decisions on where the idea fits into an end product, just on how to summarize what is before. With less decisions comes easier workflow. Chapter 10, 10.1. When writing notes, you are putting them in your own words, which causes the notes to be a personal take on the information you have gathered. The note should still be easy to understand on its own as well. So when the notes are gathered at the end, there should be a fluid connection of clear ideas. At the start, your notes may be longer than you expect. This is normal. Over time, you'll summarize better while still later understanding what you wrote. This is a good approach, as the texts you find easiest to read will be the ones that you understand well, and the texts you find harder will cause more notes to be made. You can record by hand or digitally. It doesn't actually matter. Just avoid the temptation of copying, as it will prevent you from thinking about the content you are receiving. Always put it in your own words. 10.2. It is incredibly important to try and keep your own ideas from meddling with your note-taking. This is especially so when looking at connections between the notes you have made. So if something connects to what is in the slip box, then you add it. It doesn't matter if it contradicts what is in the box or not. It may even raise more questions. We are just looking for things that can add to the discussion. This avoids only selecting one-sided ideas. Chapter 11. The brain makes connections on its own, and this can sometimes get in the way of finding new insights, so the process we are setting up will help build networks and lines of thinking that we may be surprised by. 11.3. Memorizing facts is sometimes mistaken as learning. It is incredibly difficult to memorize isolated facts, and the slip box method doesn't work this way. It works in the way that our brain works. It makes connections, and thus it helps support learning and retention of ideas. Elaboration of ideas is important because it helps make more connections. When you ask the why and how questions, then it leads to other questions and more ideas. This in turn forms a network of ideas which all support each other. Chapter 12. Items are placed into the slip box and linked to related items. This is easy in a digital version. In a physical version, you can place the item right next to the most related note. It is difficult to understand what is happening in the slip box as it forms because the slip box is a form of thinking. It isn't the product of the thinking. 12.1. To put the notes into topics, you add a couple of tags to the note. Keep the tags to a minimum. Assigning keywords will help your system to pull out notes that you may have forgotten about. This is key as it will make links you may not have seen before. Keywords are also personal as your notes will be written and keyworded according to your interests. 12.2. There are 4 types of links in a Zettelkasten and only 2 for digital versions, which I will cover. 1. An overview note that references other notes from a particular topic. This note may be the start of a draft. And 2. Note-to-note links, or hyperlinks. These links are simple, relevant connections. 12.3. In using your system, you will inevitably come across instances where you want to add a note and find you have covered the idea before. This is normal. In fact, you'll come across many ideas that seem to contradict. These paradoxes are useful because it will lead you to deeper thinking. Chapter 14. Forming new habits is difficult, but is necessary in breaking old habits. By forming new habits and sticking to them, we end up investing in our future. There will be times that stresses will arise, and relying on these good habits is a strategy for success. And as an overview, how to take smart notes is an interesting look into a system of note-taking and note curation. I found it encouraging to begin new habits and to think harder about how I interact with the knowledge I come across every day. The latter chapters of the book started to repeat concepts which I found irritating. I'd recommend this book as a read, but to use it as something to quickly get into your personal studies rather than something to ponder over. Thank you for listening.